Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. No aux in the car. Riding around bumping that first blueprint on this. I ain't trying to hear what the info is. I been trying to move on the impulsive tip. Do you want dip? I can tell you ain't having that much fun. 3 years in with your ex-boyfriend, y'all tied that knot, but it's back undone. Oh yeah, I'm trying to stack 1 ton. You ain't gotta ask where that come from. I ain't never rock no pack, son. I was on the pack of the Moss ain't mess. I skip class, no hallway pass. I'm team cap, you was always last. She got good hands in the all state. I got good kids and they all came fast. I ain't gotta say it, you can come to the Ville. Just ask who's hot, they gon' all say Jack. Told me stay down, but I always have. When I come around, man, they always ask, how does it feel? Whoa. Ain't shit, tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's off the charts. Started my night with the light. When I got to the club, I was off for the dark. And I'm on a wave like a dolphin and shark. Y'all took shots, they was off for the mark. Keep it raw from the start.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the program Tigers Tonight. I'm your host, John Maddox, joined, as always, by the best co-host in all the land. We will start with our resident storm chaser, who is in the beautiful, scenic, there ain't no way it's crime-free, Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. Mr. Marley, how are you this evening, sir?
Well, I'm actually getting on a plane as we speak, so it's going to be a short one for me tonight. But yeah, we're looking forward to the show and look forward to the week to come.
All right, give us your bold prediction and your score prediction before you jump off.
So first thing, I am going to take the Tigers 38 to 20 this week, and my bold prediction for this week is the Tigers will not have a 100-yard rusher this week.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to kick you out and let you go. Safe travel, sir, and we will talk to you later this week.
All right, guys, take care.
See you. It's Larry Marley on location in Atlanta, and now we'll check in with the Northern Bureau, the one and only Bryan Moss. Bryan, how are things in your world, sir?
Oh, not bad. It's fall. It's the leaves are changing up here already. They're falling down. So yeah, it's great. Tigers are 5-0. My wife and kid are still in Tennessee, so I still have a few more days of peace and quiet. So yeah, I can't complain.
Living the bachelor life, huh?
Oh yeah, but I got to clean the house before she get here, so it's not all good things must come to an end.
That's right. Yep. So, all right. Well, speaking of good things coming to an end, Memphis on Saturday in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, defeated Florida Atlantic by a score of 55 to 26. And I got to say, before we get into the game, that turnaround for me was ridiculous. I got into Fort Lauderdale about 10:30 their time on Friday night. So it was a little after 11 by the time I got to the airport. Saturday morning, got up. Game was at 6, of course. Got up and had lunch at the beach. Hard to complain about that. Went to the game. It was a logistical nightmare. We'll leave it at that, getting in there. Got done with the game. I want to say by the time I wrote and we had the presser, got out of there about 11. And then, no, it was a little closer to midnight, actually, and then crashed at the hotel for literally 3 hours and was back at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport, one of my favorite airports in the country, all kidding aside, by about 4:30. So quick turnaround. This is the problem with when you turn 50. It was funny. I'll just tell on Frank. Frank Bonner from the Daily Memphis and I were chatting, and he was trying. Frank's in his 30s, so let's start there. And we were trying to decide. He was debating on finding a bar that was open till 3 a.m. because his flight was 30 minutes earlier than mine. And I was like, Frank, 30-year-old John is all in. 50-year-old John thinks you're crazy. So Let's get to the game. Enough of my complaining about woeful travel schedules here. 55-26. Bryan, your impressions.
No, I definitely very impressed because I thought FAU would give Memphis some fits, and they did early. It was a close ball game, even in up until the fourth quarter started. But it was back and forth. I do have to admit that their coach, the name just escaped me, but
Zach Kittle, Zach Kitty,
Yeah,
something like that.
Kitty. He's playing little kitty games. He's playing that PlayStation too much with his fourth down calls. I mean, I understand being aggressive, and I'm just glad I don't write for Florida Atlantic because it would be hard to spin that what he did into a positive light. But hey, as a Memphis fan, you have got to be like, okay, that guy's an idiot. I'm, I'm glad, So yeah, I think all Memphis fans are like, yeah, keep going for it on fourth down. I mean, I think they went for it on fourth down and made it once in the first quarter, I think once in the second quarter, but in the second half, it was just some of the fourth down plays were a little bit longer, and it's just like it's not the right time. And especially the down, I mean, the distance where they were at, in their own, side of the field. It's just, yeah, who knows? But yeah, just thankfully, I think for the Memphis fans who do not like Ryan Silverfield, just look across the field at what
Yeah.
you have, and you can be thankful that you have Ryan Silverfield.
Well, we were, conversing, and the one that got me, and I forget the exact point in the game, but it was like 4th and 7 from their own 32, and I want to say they're down 12 at that point. They still have 3 timeouts left, and it reminded me, and I was trying to remember the exact game, but there was a Colts Patriots game several years back where Bill Belichick went for it in a similar spot, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" Now, if you're going to emulate Bill Belichick, that's probably not the way to do it. That probably wasn't the best move. Um,
Yeah.
and Jeb brings up, thought we looked bored till the fourth quarter. I think it was boredom, but I think it was just another one of those, we didn't need to do a lot, and we knew we didn't need to do much. And you were able to run the ball at will. DeRosier ends up with 204 yards. Had that beautiful 90-yard touchdown run. Brendan Lewis, 17 carries for 60 yards. I really don't think that's a recipe, and I said this on X during the game, I don't think that's a long-term recipe for success. 10, 11 carries a game. But, we asked Ryan about it, and he said it was just kind of flow of the game. And,
Hmm.
they had a really funny exchange because they come into post game at separate times. And, Ryan's like, yeah, we're trying to talk him into sliding and, so on and so forth. And Brendan comes in and he's like, yeah, I need to protect myself, but sliding's really not an option. But because he took a pretty good shot when he
He
had to
did.
go out of the game, he took a, and he took it. It was kind of unnecessary because he lowered
Yeah.
his shoulder um, to create that contact, and while the team loves that, you just can't do that with your quarterback. I think Memphis has figured out who the number one receiver is, and it's not really a surprise, is it, Bryan Braham?
No,
Like,
it's no. I mean, because you got to think. I mean, they were at Nevada together, so as soon as Braham, committed, it's like, all right, we know the number one. Yes, he didn't have a full, fall camp, here at Memphis, but I mean, they had what a year or two together at Nevada. So I mean, there's your rapport. So they didn't need to have that, refresher really. But yeah, it's a good thing that he came because Memphis. Looking at the other receivers, I think Hawkins is coming along just fine, but he doesn't look at a lot of other receivers as much as he's looking at Braham. Because I mean, he threw it to him 8 times,
yep,
and then the very next one was Hawkins at 4.
yeah,
So yeah, he's definitely the true number one.
yeah, and you're going to have to fix that because if you don't even look at other guys, um, then that's going to be a problem for you because teams are going to figure that out, right? And they're going to say, you know
Yeah,
what, everybody but this guy. But the problem is you can't really do that with Memphis. You say, all right, everybody but Braham's going to, anybody other than him's going to beat us. Okay, well, maybe anybody other than Sutton Smith. Well, maybe anybody other than Greg DeWosier. So Memphis can afford that in the running game, but I don't think they can. I just don't think that's a long term successful way to do things.
And I don't think it's a long term because if you look only from memory, I think did he even throw to a tight end? I don't think so. I don't, and that's one thing that did shock me that the tight ends didn't get a lot of I don't want to say play because I mean obviously they played, but didn't get a lot of love. Didn't throw to them. So I don't think you'll see that very much going further. And Jeb said in the chat about when Arrington Maiden came in, they didn't really give him the opportunity to. I mean, it was just he has an arm. I mean, he has a rocket arm. He knows how to throw it. And I even said it on X during the game. I was like, Maiden has an arm. Trust it. I mean, you recruited this kid for a reason. I mean, give him some passing plays, but we'll see. Because one thing I don't want is if Lewis goes out, legit, he's out for a couple of series or a quarter or whatever. Then you're really and the heart of the schedule's coming. The harder part, you got USF, Tulane, Navy. You don't want Maiden to have his first pass against those teams. Get him some experience before that happens. So to me, that was definitely a missed opportunity.
Yeah, a little bit. And, I just think it's such a balancing act with
Yeah.
your quarterbacks, right? Like, you don't want to Wally Pip somebody. Brendan goes out, gets hurt for 2 series. Maiden comes in, throws for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then, now what do you do? But, I mean, I think that, at some point in that game, if you're going to put him out there, which you had to, let him throw the ball because I think it was low risk. I don't remember the
Yeah.
exact score when he went out, but I think Memphis let FAU hang around a little too long. I think they aided and abetted some of that with, I said this on X, I think, the thing about Brendan is he doesn't make a little mistake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not,
Mm-hmm.
he had that safety. He had that fumble recovery for a touchdown by Troy. He had a strip sack here, but it also, in his defense, all 3 of those have been blindside where he didn't see the guy coming. It's not like he's rolling out and trying to extend the play and make a bad choice. But to your point, the meat of this schedule is coming up, and you can't do that against Tulane or USF or Navy. You'll pay for it dearly. But another efficient game, and I've said this a lot, and I'm going to say it again. Memphis fans are going to have to get used to winning differently.
Yes.
Bryan is not. This is the ultimate what Coach Silverfield wants. 46 carries, 19 passes. Now, let's maybe make that 38 carries, 26 passes. So, maybe a little closer, but he wants to run the ball. And it's really hard to argue with that when you've run for 581 yards over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
290 against Arkansas, 291 against FAU, and it really was 293 because Maiden lost 2 yards, and that was the only losing yards of the day. So, 13 and 19, 2 touchdowns. That's a 68% completion percentage. It's a ridiculous rating of 189.8. And, but DeWosier, I mean, yeah, I'm not ashamed to say it. He came in a boot, and I think the boot is not protective, but when you're not playing, we don't want to risk you getting hurt, stumbling around or something. So he said he's about 75, 80%, which is absolutely scary.
It is.
He
Could
was
think about
so,
that. Yeah. What was it? 80% and having 204 yards.
yeah,
I
he
mean,
was
that's
so
pretty good.
good. That series that started from the 1, first of all, never should have started from the 1. That was a touchback. But second of all, that is where I was like, okay, this is where Memphis can't make a mistake. This is the spot of the game, because I think at that point it was still pretty close. Let's see, where's the DeWosier run? Yeah, it is
Hmm.
17-16. That's the first score of the second half. So if Memphis makes a mistake there, and even if they just get a field goal out of it, that changes kind of the whole, how the flow of the game goes. But
Yeah.
and then Memphis just turned it on when it got to the fourth quarter. They went touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, touchdown. And I want to touch, ha ha ha, on the end of the game. I had several people reach out and say that was very un-Memphis like what they did. Let's call it what it was, running up the score a little bit. That was
Hmm.
very un-Memphis like. And we asked Coach Silverfield about that on yesterday, and he was pretty transparent. He said, we did that to protect our players for player safety. He said, because they had cheap shot it and got a couple personal fouls, got a guy thrown out of the game. And, I think the thought process was there, let's get, I want to prove a point,
Yeah.
but let's not run into the center of the line and risk somebody frankly grabbing and twisting an ankle or hitting somebody or something. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that bootleg out to get that last touchdown to push Memphis over 50 points. So, but it bothered him that that occurred, that you had those sort of thoughts going into that. And but look, it was one of those things. Memphis wanted to get out of there, don't get anybody seriously injured, get out of there, score, make your point known.
Yeah.
Make it a point. Make sure that that other sideline understands that I won't say the words, but it's the FAFO concept, and Florida Atlantic found out pretty quick.
Yeah, they did.
And kudos to Ryan for sticking up for his team, because a lot of coaches would have just kneeled or you know run and slid, but he wanted to make a point with 51 seconds left and a 48-26 lead, that you're not going to mess with us that way. And maybe, I mean, let's hope we're not in this league very long, but that's another subject. But maybe this can be something that becomes some sort of a rivalry. Now, I hope it stays clean, but you've
Yeah.
got it in basketball, the two best teams in the league historically. And that was Ryan's other point. He's like, look, even if nobody gets hurt, and kudos to Memphis for this, they stayed out of it, because it's real easy when you're getting punked and pushed around and
Hmm.
grabbed and hit to respond. And it's always the second dude. It's never the first guy.
Yeah, and this is where you can really see it has become Silverfield's team. He has a control over things. The football team has his identity, because in years past you would see Memphis players, not all of them, but a few here and there, lose their cool and get these flags as retaliation. But you didn't see that this go around, so that's why you could see Silverfield and the coaching staff just. I guess the kids really being all in, as they would, as their mantra is. I mean, because look, you said it. And it wasn't just the fourth quarter that the FAU was doing this. It got progressively worse through each quarter of the game. I mean, you saw it in the first quarter, even more in the second, more in the third, and in fourth quarter, it's like, all right, enough's enough.
Yeah. And, Memphis in the fourth quarter, 31 points. I frankly didn't feel like it Sunday or yesterday, but I was going to look up. I can't remember the last time. I
Yeah.
think, I want to say, and Jeb's going to know, I don't even know why I'm not just asking him. I want to say there was a game where Memphis was at Cincinnati, and they had, and this is a long time ago, and they had an outburst like that where they scored like 34 points or something in a quarter. But I frankly don't remember a time seeing an outburst like that. Memphis, puts up 291 yards on the ground, 196 through the air, only gives up 75 yards rushing. And I think, Bryan, to your point too, like, this is the identity of Memphis. This is Jordan Hankins' identity. We'll let you have what you want through the air. We're going to keep you out of the end zone, but you are not running the football. That's just not happening. You're
Yeah.
not running the ball.
Yeah.
And,
It's definitely good to see.
I didn't look, but they had 2 receivers go over 100 yards receiving. It's been a long time since I think that's happened, but I'm not a yards guy because if you look at it, Caden Veldenkamp goes 31 for 50 for 318 yards. Now, how many touchdowns the guy had? That many.
Yeah.
So 318 yards doesn't matter. Like, I don't look at where is Memphis in terms of pass defense in the country? Where is Memphis in terms of scoring defense? That's what John wants to know. That's all, because it doesn't matter if you're running up all these big yards. Memphis is third in the conference in scoring defense at 18 points a game. That's what matters. See, I knew it. 1983 at Riverfront Stadium, a safety and 3 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes, 43-10 Memphis. I knew there was like that time, but it was one of those things too. That's way off topic here, but Memphis used to have a basketball player, Kelly Wise, and he was a guy you'd look down and you're like, 18-12. When did that happen? That was how this game was on Saturday. I had no clue Memphis had scored 31 points in the fourth quarter, and I'm staring at a dang stat screen. But, just a solid win. And I think a message to the rest of the league, a little bit that, not just FAU, it's funny, FAU, but you're not going to do that to Memphis. You're not going to come in and try to bully Memphis, and it'd be silly to try to do that because Memphis has got some dogs, and you just don't. It's not a good business decision to come out and try to bully a team that, and I think you said it best, Bryan, that this is Coach Silverfield's identity. This is who he is. Memphis is going to run the ball. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to not let you run the ball. They're going to let you throw it, but they're going to keep you out of the end zone, and they're going to score when they get in the red zone. So that's the identity. And that's why you have some of these fans that throw fits, because Memphis isn't throwing 25 of 31 for 433 yards and 3 touchdowns. At the end of the year, they don't ask how, they ask how many.
Yeah.
And as long as the how many keeps piling up, who cares how you win? Memphis extends the country's longest winning streak to 9 games, 45th straight game of more than 20 points. Couple other superlatives that I don't have the game notes in front of me, but I think the 204 yards is the most by a Tiger since Kenny Gainwell in 2019. The 291 yards is the most since whatever before last week was. Bryan, you said it best, 5-0 going into a slate of tough games. And I think that this team needs to get through this week, and they need a bye. They can use a bye in some ways, but then, Bryan, do you think maybe you'd rather play and keep your momentum rolling, or is it one of those things where we need to get away from each other for a few days and kind of step back?
To me, it all depends on how the season's going. And I think the way it's going right now, you kind of want to keep it going. So it will be here's my, I guess my quote that I always say, it's going to be interesting, how they come out of that break. But before the season, you remember we talked about the Memphis defense, and I said if Memphis can have just an average defense, that's what this team has really been missing since the 2015 or whatever year that Barry Odom, maybe it was 2014, that Barry Odom was the defensive coordinator, and they were top 25 in total defense. I was like, if Memphis just had a decent defense, I mean, this team can go places. And I think they have more than just a decent defense, because as of right now, they're 49th in the country. I mean, that's for Memphis standards, that's fantastic, because
that's
in the
top quarter, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
132. Oh, don't make me do math. Oh Lord.
But even in the where they were, what was it, like last year? They really were hurting in the rush defense, if I'm not mistaken. They're 23rd. in the country right now. Let me look at the pass defense real quick, and they're 90th, so there's a room for improvement. But
Yeah.
the biggest improvement I've seen, and I have to go back through all the other games, but during the FAU game, that second half on third down, the Memphis defense really shut it down because FAU was only 3 of 11 on third downs.
And as we talked about, Memphis is 34th in the country in scoring defense. And
Yeah.
that's all John Maddox cares about. All right, well, we're going to bring in. He's done okay so far, so we're keeping him around. And with the good weather we had, we dodged the storms in Boca, so we're going to double his pay this week. We bring in the one and only Eric Procies from MemphisWeather.net.
What a deal.
Eric, we are living the dream of every forecaster persistence right now. This pattern. So,
Yeah, it really is.
what are we looking for going forward?
Well, speaking of running up the score, I think I'm 5-0 on the year, but we're just going to take this week one game at a time and move on. Persistence is the pattern that makes the forecast actually not a huge challenge this week, and that means good news for Tiger fans who are going out early to tailgate. Actually, I would say probably the coolest day of the next 4 or 5 might actually be Saturday. We're looking at a high around 85. So, feeling again more like late August than 1st of October. But not too bad. The humidity will not be bad. It'll be a light breeze. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock, I think. And so we're looking at upper 70s to right around 80 for the kickoff, dropping through the 70s during the game. Clear skies, no chance of rain. Looks like everything should be great down there at the old Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium.
Yeah, so I think you can probably kind of put that graphic up. I'm going to give you the week off. You can just put the graphic up for every day for the next week. Mid to upper 80s, 60s at night, not a cloud in the sky, making your life easy.
Just about right. But we are looking forward to getting down maybe to some 60s for some of these later games here coming up in the years. It'll feel more like football weather for sure.
Yes, real football weather, not that stuff
Yeah.
Bryan calls football weather up north.
Exactly.
Snow, baby. I want some snow.
No, thank you.
No.
We don't say that word down
That's
here.
a 4-letter word.
Yeah, that is a 4-letter word. Eric, tell everybody how they can keep up.
Sure. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. We're Memphis Weather 1, MemphisWeather.net, providing updates throughout the day, every day of the year, not just ahead of Tiger games. So we look forward to you joining us.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Eric. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks. Eric Procies, MemphisWeather.net. So we've got the forecast, and we're going to hopefully have a special guest here in a couple of minutes who will join us from Golden Hurricane. But it's
Every
time.
game. So if it's going to, he said, 80 degrees roughly at the kickoff?
Yeah.
So every game so far this year has been in the 80s. Not bad. 5-0.
Now 5-0, and yeah, I mean, we'll take it. It could be worse. It could be rainy and windy or whatever. But yeah, Jeb's already looking forward to Boise next year. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a week out there, I think, because that's a beautiful part of the country. But Boise is one of those places, not to get off track here, that you got to mean to go. Like nobody accidentally rolls through Boise. It's you got to work to get there. But all right, so before Chris gets here, let's start looking ahead to Tulsa. Yeah, or a tropical storm rolling in from the Gulf. What was that? ULM a few years ago. Yeah, it was ULM. It was Louisiana Monroe because it was a non-conference game, and a lot of us were like, "What are we doing?" And like it was miserable the entire game. It poured down rain, so we haven't had one of those. So yeah, we've been blessed this year. It's been a little warm, but like it was warm in Florida, but it was going to be. It's Florida, so it was going to be warm. So. All right, so moving ahead to Tulsa here. This is what we call killing a little time here. Bryan, what are your initial thoughts on Tulsa?
Bloodbath. I mean, when you take a look at Tulsa, I mean, they're hurting. They only average 21 points per game. So and Memphis, with the way the Memphis defense has been playing, I think it's going to be tough for Tulsa to score. They give up a lot of points. They're not very efficient on third down. So I mean, when you just take a look at all their stats, it's like, it's just not a very good football team right now. It's definitely not the Tulsa team of years past where they would give Memphis fits. And what was the 2019 season where it was a missed field goal? You make that field goal and you just crush everybody in Memphis, and it changes things. But this team is not that team.
There are a lot of things,
far
but
from
they're
it.
not that. They are 1-0 and getting coaches fired. Because that was the final straw for Mike Gundy at wherever he was, Oklahoma State. And that was one of the things, I wanted to ask Chris about if he can make it in is, what does that, even though, yes, it's a terrible Oklahoma State team, but what does that kind of do for your program to get a win over somebody that looks at you like your little brother,
Yeah.
But I think we have to be careful as outsiders because I was a little guilty of this until I watched a little bit of Tulane at Tulsa. As Jeb said, I watched a little bit of that and I'm like, they're not any good. Like that was more of a reflection of Oklahoma State's terrible and Tulsa probably played up. Just like Memphis did against Arkansas, just like Memphis has done against Mississippi State, when they get those up games, they're going to play up to their competition. And you catch one of them that's bad, Arkansas. Although we can't really say Memphis got their coach fired, but I think the bloodbath with Notre Dame was probably Memphis started nailing in, and then Marcus Freeman he got the last lick and put it in the coffin. So we're going to bring in now from Golden Hurricane, Chris Harmon. Chris, thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us for a few minutes. Chris, can you hear us? Let's see.
Maybe.
All right, Chris, can you hear us? I don't think he can hear. Let me see. Live radio, folks. This is kind of how it works.
Can you guys not hear me?
There we go. We got you now. We couldn't hear. I don't know what was going on. We couldn't hear you for a second.
Hold on just a second.
Oh, you're good.
Well,
can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's showing me. Hold on.
You are not muted.
But
can you hear us? Because we can hear you now.
Does that work possibly?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
So you guys, you guys can't hear me at all?
We hear you now. You hear us.
Okay. I just can't hear you.
Oh, all right.
I wonder why this isn't working.
All right. Well, anyway, so we'll, I don't know. Let me pull you out of the scene and then you can just kind of give us a thumbs up if something happens and you can hear us and I'll pull you back in. But Memphis did that against Tennessee. What was that? 1996, where they beat Tennessee, and they beat a team that, they considered, Tennessee looked at little brother. They think Memphis is, little brother. And, if you're Tulsa, that's the way you had to look at this game, and you had to go, look, we may not be great, but Oklahoma State's not good. And so this is our shot to go get them. And if you are a Memphis fan and you didn't watch the Tulane game, you didn't watch the New Mexico game, you just take that at face value and go, man, well, they beat a Big 12 team. They beat a terrible Big 12 team. Now, does that mean Memphis can come out, Bryan, and just kind of roll, as the basketball says, roll the ball out there and win? That remains to be seen. Who knows? But Jeff has a good point. It was so funny. I saw Philip Montgomery was named their Virginia Tech's interim head coach. Worst job in America, being the interim head coach when you have zero chance of being the head coach. So, I mean, as you look at this, you have to look at it in a couple different ways. Number one, here's a chance for you to get right going into the bye, keep that momentum rolling, get through the first half of your schedule 6-0, And we said that was what needed to happen. I think we all had it either, I think most of us were what, 5-1, 4-2. Like, so we're better than, Memphis is better off than we thought they were.
Except for me. I still had them
Oh,
undefeated.
yeah. All right, let's see. All right, Chris, can you hear us now?
Yes.
All
There we
right.
go.
Yeah.
I had to mess with the settings. I don't know.
Oh, you're
We
good.
were gonna start sending up smoke signals and let you determine. So Chris Harmon from Golden Hurricane, and Chris, we were just talking about there. Tulsa's win over Oklahoma State. Before we get into the meat of things, it didn't really matter that Oklahoma State was bad, did it? Like that win had to feel good.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time in 74 years that Tulsa's won at Oklahoma State. And then the first time they've beaten Oklahoma State since 1998. So yeah, for Tulsa fans, that was a big monkey off their back. It's a down year for Oklahoma State, obviously, but it's always good when Tulsa can get a win over the Cowboys.
Yeah, Oklahoma State. Those are circle games. So the problem has been, I think, this year for Tulsa is they haven't really shown up in any other games. So what do you think, if you had to say, okay, this is the problem? What do you think that would be for Tulsa?
Well, I mean, first of all, they can't. They're not really completing any downfield passes. So right now, it's all about the run game, and Dominic Richardson is doing a great job. I mean, he's, I think, 11th in the country right now in rushing, but that's really they're pretty one dimensional right now. They have a couple of receivers. Zion Booker mainly has been the main piece for them, and they're really looking for a deep threat. But it's a combination of finding deep threats at receiver and then just having your quarterbacks have some accuracy downfield, and that's really killed them. There were a couple of plays against Tulane that if they would have gotten, that ball game could have been a little bit closer. They just, one thing they have going for them is they play hard. Offense, defense, they play extremely hard. So the coaching staff is great. They've really changed the culture. They have more talent than they had the last couple of years, but that's not saying a whole lot. So they are improved and they play hard. But they still have a ways to go.
When you look at the coach Trey Lamb, how has I guess fans rallied around him? Because I know sometimes when new coaches come in and it doesn't start off well, people jump off the bandwagon pretty quick. But do you sense from Tulsa fans that that they like the direction where it's going, even though it's early?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a grace period there, but he also, he says the right things, does the right things, and it's not like it's intentional. It's just him. It's just his personality and the way that he goes about his business. But he's also, he tells it like it is. I mean, that's something that's been pretty refreshing. When we sat down with him after spring practice, we always do position reviews and put out position analysis throughout the summer. And he was very candid, talking about the players. And, a lot of new coaches aren't going to do that. But he's been, he's young, but he's still been doing it a while. He has a lot of experience for his age. And it's pretty incredible, going into each game when he talks about these opposing coaching staffs and his relationship with them and how many times he's coached against different guys. And he's really made a great impression. And I think certainly the way he's operating now, I mean, he's going to get allowed the time to get this thing turned around.
And the starting quarterback, is it Francis? Because when I was looking, it was Hayes that's been getting bulk of the carries. I mean, bulk of the passes attempts.
Yeah. So what happened is against New Mexico State late in the second half, Francis got a concussion, and he didn't want to come out of the game, and he told the coaches he was fine. And then they were at the goal line, and I can't remember, it was something like second or third and 3 or something like that. And, if you watch that play, you're thinking, where is he throwing the ball? And it gets intercepted. Well, he had a concussion, and I mean, he was loopy, and, he didn't want to come out of the game. And, Coach Lamb said afterwards he wished he had done a little bit better job assessing that situation, but they got it figured out pretty quick and put Baylor Hayes in, and Hayes has really, I guess he's been in ever since. And he played pretty well in that Oklahoma State game, handled himself pretty well. He does add a dimension with his legs that Francis doesn't have. Kirk seems to be a little bit more accurate in the passing game, but against Tulane, Hayes was getting beat up a little bit. They sacked him 6 times. But, Coach Lamb said he wasn't going to put Francis in because, he's not as mobile as Hayes, and coming off a concussion, that's not going to do him any good. So if he would have replaced him, it would have been Stephen Kittleman, the third string. And so, Hayes is young. He's, I think at this point now has 5 starts total. If you combine the one he had at East Tennessee State. And so he's still learning. He's young. I think he has some upside and some talent. But, he got rattled pretty good against Tulane.
My last question for me is the NIL. Since how is Tulsa's NIL budget, or what do you see from that? Because some schools obviously have more of a budget than others. What can we expect, I guess, from Tulsa going further? Are they investing more, things like that?
Yeah, they are. With it being a private school, they don't. It's hard to get hard figures on all of that. But it is. I mean, when they made the switch from Kevin Wilson and hired Trey Lamb, they did put some things in place and got money brought in, and I think Lamb has been a key piece of that as well, because he's a really incredible golfer and he does a lot of golfing with alums and boosters, and he said he's raised more money on the golf course than anywhere else. So so that's big for him, and so I think it has made a difference. I think that's what got them a few players that maybe in the year or two before they wouldn't have gotten, but they still I mean, I was told it's up, top half of the conference as far as NIL numbers go. But without, knowing the figures, it's hard to really know. But, they did a great job in recruiting, and I think we'll see that again in this next cycle. And it's what they really need to do is get a quarterback in. They've got a kid, Kaiden Barker, that's committed, who's really talented, but you don't want to bring a freshman in and count on that. So I'm sure they will be looking for a quarterback in the portal in this season.
Yeah, and I think that this is a case, not to get too far off the rabbit trail here, but where having a young coach who's kind of come up in this environment probably helps a school like Tulsa versus having, you could have Dabo Swinney, you'd want him, but have Dabo Swinney who's kind of set in his ways and hasn't. Mike Gundy, who's actually probably a better example, who had never adjusted to the new reality. So let's move over to the other side of the football. Defensively, I noticed here that Jadan Burnett is the leading tackler in terms of tackles for loss. He's already got 7.5. So what about the Tulsa defense has been their strength this year?
Yeah, the defense has been solid. The defensive line, compared to the last 3-4 seasons, it's night and day. I mean, it's an improvement in size, speed, athleticism, aggressiveness. I mean, it's I think what you guys will see on Saturday. I think you'll be like, oh, okay, this is a little bit different than what we've seen from Tulsa over the last several seasons. I mean, they really get after it, and it's a bunch of transfers for the most part. Nakai Johnson in the middle has been really strong. Transfer from Pitt. Tim Hardiman has been good coming over from Arkansas State. You mentioned Burnett. They've got Byron Turner from Florida State. And then at linebacker, Ray Coney, who came with Lamb from East Tennessee State, he is an absolute stud. He's got 56 tackles, I think, so far in 5 games. And he's just all over the place. I mean, you will see him. He's number 0, and you'll see him all over the field. So, they can get exposed at times, at corner and things like that, depending on the matchups. But that's gotten a little bit better. And Elijah Green, he's a young corner, but very talented, has 2 or 3 interceptions already this season. So the defense has really been the strength, and that's kept them, in games where, I mean, like New Mexico State. I mean, that's a game that folks thought, okay, well, they're going to go over there and get a pretty easy win. And it was back and forth because their defense played great, but their offense just struggled. And, they could have won that game, but that's one that they definitely gave away. But the defense kept them in it. Defense played great at Oklahoma State. Defense played pretty solid against Tulane. It's just they were on the field a long time, and so they were getting pretty worn out. But overall, that's certainly been the strength of the team so far this season.
Looking at the stats, there's a place kicker that should be familiar to Memphis fans, Seth Morgan, who was here in 2023, is at Tulsa, and looks like he's had a pretty solid start to the year, 7 of 9 for field goals and 10 of 10 on extra points. So what about the kind of the rest of the special teams? Because I think that when you are kind of playing up, that's an area that you probably, if you get a couple breaks in special teams, that keeps the game a lot closer. So how about Tulsa special teams?
Yeah, it's been pretty solid this season. Last year Morgan had a rough year. I think he was 10 of 15 on field goals, and the new special teams coordinators, Coach Barfield from Florida State, came in from Florida State and has done a really nice job. Angus Davies, the Australian punter, I mean, he was good last season. He's been great this season. He had like an 80-yard punt earlier this season. It was insane, from his own end zone, completely flipped the field. So they're solid there. They've been good in coverage on special teams, and I mean, Morgan's had a much better season so far. I mean, they've had to really count on him because they've struggled to get touchdowns. They've been kicking a lot of field goals. So, I think that's an area that so far has been a strength against Tulane. They recovered an onside kick in the first half. That was a nice job, and Morgan's doing the kickoffs as well. So, it certainly hasn't been a weakness, which there's been some seasons where Tulsa's, given up touchdowns on punt returns and kick returns, and, just very difficult. And so it's nice that they've had a solid special teams unit.
Missed a critical field goal in 2019, but we won't revisit that one. All right. So, we're going to let you go here in a second, but what happened Saturday?
This coming Saturday?
Yes. What happened Saturday?
Oh, I got you. Well, I mean, I'm looking for, Tulsa, if they play the way they've been playing, they're going to come out and play hard. And, I would expect the defense to keep them in it for a while. But I mean, Memphis, I watched a bit of the Arkansas game, a bit of the Florida Atlantic game. Very explosive, very talented. I'm a fan of Coach Silverfield, and so yeah, it's going to be a tough game, and so them keeping it within, what's the spread, like 20.5. I think that's doable for them to keep it within 3 touchdowns. But we'll see. I think that would be, nobody's expecting them to go in there and win the game. I mean, if that happened, it would be incredible, but nobody's expecting that. So I think you look at it from just progressing as a team for them to go on the road to Memphis. If it ends up being a couple touchdown game, then they probably had a pretty good day.
Tell Tiger fans how they can follow you up until the game on Saturday.
Yeah, so they can find us, at Golden Hurricane on X or Twitter, and then we're on 3 Inside Tulsa Sports. Been doing that for about 24 years now, so those are the main places that they can find us.
Awesome. Well, Chris, we'll let you get back to work, and we really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule and hope to, will we see you on Saturday?
No, won't be able to make it. My wife's out of town, so can't make the trip this weekend.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, and good luck to the Golden Hurricane the rest of the way.
Appreciate it. Good to talk to you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris Harmon from Inside Tulsa Sports, part of the On3 Network. All right, Bryan. Well, you heard from the other side. What do you think? Before we get to predictions, how do you feel about Saturday?
I think when you take a look at the games Tulsa have played so far, they kept it close early with Tulane. If I'm not mistaken, let me take a look. Was it 7-7 at the end of the first quarter? And we look at 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. Obviously, we all know they beat Oklahoma State, but even at Navy, after the first quarter, they were leading Navy 14-7. But I think that's because Navy had some early turnovers, but still, Tulsa can get on you early. I don't think they have the depth yet to keep it close long. So I see a competitive game early, but by the end of the game, I think Memphis wins big. But I wouldn't be surprised though if Memphis is only up 7 or 10 points at the half.
Yeah, I mean, and look, let's make no bones about it. Memphis has started very, very slow in the last 2 games. They were, and they've had no business leading 2 out of the last 3 games at the half. Against Georgia State, I think it was 16-10, and then last week or this week it was 17-16. And Memphis should not have been leading in either one of those games. And the slow start plays into Tulsa a little bit. I do want to go back to the NIL thing. I thought it was interesting, and Jeff's saying this in the chat, that, Trey Lamb's golfing was brought up. I'm here to tell you that more deals are made on hole 9 than are ever made in the boardroom. That's all I'll say about that. But I think their problem is the pool, right? Like we've talked about that over and over. The schools that are going to be good have the bigger pool to swim in, and that's sort of Tulsa's challenge there. So as far as the game goes, I just think Memphis leans on you now that they have developed this running game and have been. I don't want to diminish it, but have been serviceable in the passing game. And I'm not diminishing anything. I think that efficient's the better word, but not overwhelming you in the passing game. But the running game has just been dominant. And even if you have a good defensive line and a good set of linebackers, you get tired of trying to tackle Sutton Smith and Greg DeWossier as the game goes on, because even though they're both speed guys, they have some power too. And the other thing, people are like, oh, they beat on you. Well, they can start to run away from you too, because you're tired at that point. So, and you saw that on DeWossier's long run to get that touchdown is Florida Atlantic just ran out of gas trying to catch him. I mean, and the guy dived a little bit early. If he waits another yard, he probably brings him down. But you run out of gas and you get tired of the Memphis offensive line pushing you around. So I think this is another running game. I don't think this is not a game Brendan Lewis has to win. I think He just needs to do what he's been doing. And I was close. I said he'd have 5 total touchdowns last week, and he ended up with 4. I
Yeah.
thought he'd have 4 through the air and 1 on the ground. But, you know, this is a game I think you can just run the ball and get out of there healthy. That's the key to me, because you're going into a bye. If you have guys that are banged up, this is probably another week that they can rest a little bit. You don't have to show your hand this week, or frankly the week after the bye. You can kind of play it along, be good enough to win. Let's keep that 20 plus point game streak going, which I don't think will be a problem this week. And just be solid. That's what Memphis has
Hmm.
to do. It's just be solid. You don't have to. You don't. And this is not disparaging to Tulsa, but you don't have to be tremendous against them. You just need to be Memphis, do what you do, run the dang ball, Bert. Jeb I think he's got that saved in like a note when we talk about bold predictions for the week, and it's just copy and
Yeah.
paste. We'll get to bold predictions in a second. But I just think Memphis just has to, again, run the dang ball, Bert. And for those who don't know, that's from Blindside. And just run the ball. Let's make this a short game, please. And just get out of town with a W. So let's start. Let's go with bold predictions. Larry's, you heard earlier, was no 100-yard rusher for this week. Bryan, what is your bold prediction?
Well, Larry should have looked at the stats, because Tulsa is 114th against the rush. So my bold prediction is that Memphis will have a 200-yard rusher. And I'm going to go a little bit further with a bold prediction, because I was looking at the stats. I think Brendan Lewis will have a career day at Memphis, not his, I guess, his Memphis career, because his longest, the most passes he's ever had so far is 213 yards. So I'm going to go 225 yards for his Memphis best, and a 200-yard rusher.
Wow. I'm kind of beside myself. It's another one of those things, like you wouldn't think that Sutton Smith's career high was 115 yards going into 2 weeks ago. Like, even though he had barely played, it felt like he had a 150-yard game. 213 yards. That's pretty
And
crazy.
he's only went over 200 yards once, and that was against Troy. Everything else has been under 200 yards, and I just couldn't believe that when I was looking at it.
But his completion percentage has got to be up in the upper 60s.
It's let's see, he's
63,
looking at
64.
66.9.
Yeah. So that, again, Trent Dilfer won a dang Super Bowl doing that stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, nobody's knocking him when we say, oh, that's diminishing the fact that, other than usually about one play a game, then none of them I think you can really put on him. But he makes good decisions. He makes great decisions with the read option that Memphis, man, they miss that so much, having that read option, true read option where you have a true threat to pull it
Mm-hmm.
when that DL crashes down. I mean, love Seth, miss Seth a lot, but looked like a baby deer sometimes trying to run the football. But now you've got that true option. And I just think that opens up the whole playbook for Memphis, because, now you can trust him. I think that's one of the things he's built trust, right? Like, they know they can cut him loose if they have to.
Mm-hmm.
So my bold prediction, Jeb's bold prediction, Sutton Smith will run a kickoff or a punt back for a touchdown. Like I said, he's copying and pasting that every week. Memphis will have a special teams and defensive touchdown this week. They will obviously hit the lottery, hit the trifecta, because they will definitely have an offensive, but they will add a special teams and a defensive touchdown this week. They haven't had a special teams touchdown yet. So I think this is the week they hit the trifecta. I'm going to be really optimistic here. You have two teams that want to run the ball. We are going to look at the scoreboard at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium at 9:59 p.m. under 3 hours, because The game last week, by the way, 3 hours and 40 minutes. That should be a crime against the Geneva Convention. That should never happen. But I'm going to say 2 hours, 58 minutes. When Bryan looks at that scoreboard, it will say
Memphis 41-21.
Larry has said 38-20. And you're
I,
41-21.
and it may be that the 21 points for Tulsa comes in the first half and then gets shut out the second half.
52-10. I think this is a game where Memphis they're not going to have much resistance. That's you said it earlier with the run defense. I mean, and this is a game that maybe it's just 24-10 at half, and then Memphis I don't think you'll see unless Tulsa tries to emulate some of Florida Atlantic. I don't think you'll see Memphis intentionally run it up, but I think Memphis. So I'll make a bold prediction. I will spoil the UAB game. I think Memphis will have over 100 total points between the next 2 weeks. Well over 100 total points. And I want to remind everybody, good teams win, great teams cover. Memphis is 5-0 this season against the spread. So I think Memphis blows their doors off. I think they want to send a message going into the bye week. I think that's would be the purpose. It's not that Trey Lamb is by all counts. He's a super well liked coach. He's going to get that going in some direction. He's a very nice guy. So he's not a guy that Ryan's going to run up the score on. But I just think Memphis just overwhelms them 52-10. That's my prediction. Of course, that means it'll be a 24-17 game. So my apologies in advance. We will see. So we're off. So we will not have a show next Tuesday. I will make that executive decision right here. We will take the bye week, and then we will be back the Tuesday before UAB, which will be what 12, 13, the 14th, right?
I think so.
My math good there, the 14th. All right. So we're off next week. We're going to take a break and get our legs underneath us, and then we will be back on the 14th. So for the one and only Larry Marley on location in Atlanta. Well, he's actually in the air now, I think. So en route back to the Bluff City, and for the best co-host in all the land, Bryan Moss, John Maddox signing off, and we will see everybody in a little bit over a week.